Hello and welcome to another Caseware webinar. Today we'll be looking at Academy Accounts Advanced, the epCA4.06.02. Today, my name's James and I'll be hosting today's webinar alongside Tom Jeffries, who we have on the other screen just there. He'll be running through the latest release updates today. We'll also be running a live Q&A session at the end of today's webinar for any of your questions. And please use the Q&A button shown on screen there to post your questions. If you have any questions that are of a technical issue in regards to the stream itself, any issues on that front, please use the chat and I can respond to you as soon as possible on there. A recording of today's session will be made available on both our our new help site, and our YouTube channel, to which we encourage you to subscribe on there. We'll also be going through at the end of today's session a little brief glance of the new help site and just run through a couple of the new features on there as well to get everyone up to date. I'll now hand over to Tom, who will just go through the agenda for us.
Thanks, James. Hello, everyone. As James pointed out there, we are talking about the Academy updates included in the Charity and Academy EPAC release CA4.06.02. So, of course, that covers charity as well. But on this webinar, we're just looking at the Academy updates included there and how it affects your Academy engagements in Accounts Advanced. So looking at the agenda here, we're going to be spending probably most of the time looking at the Academy hubs and the associated content there, predominantly new mapping numbers, which we'll have a look at in a sec in the file. This is the last slide before we look at the file, so don't worry, we're not. This isn't a very slide-heavy webinar today. We're also going to be looking at some new layout changes, particularly on the sofa. That's to align with the 21-22 AAD. Actually, most of the updates in this release are in line with the new AAD, and we've got a new accounting policy gift aid. We'll look at that very briefly, and there's a sundry list of changes, so we'll have a look through some other formatting updates, but as I say, most of the presentation is going to be around the Academy hubs. As James said, you can ask questions throughout. We have got time for Q&A at the end. We've got up to half an hour available to us, but I don't think that the content's going to be filling the full allocation, so you've got plenty of time to ask us questions. We'll do our best to answer during the session. If not, we'll get back to you afterwards, and any questions will go into a Q&A document that will accompany the recording on the help site. So I'm going to jump to my file now. If I can just nick the screen off of James. We want to go on to this one here. Hopefully you can see my Stone-made Academy file. Thanks, James. We're in the accounts at the moment, so I'm just going to jump to working papers. And first of all, to point out that not only have we got an EPAC release, we also have a TPAC release. So there's an associated TPAC to accompany this EPAC, and that is for some new mapping numbers. We've got quite a few new mapping numbers, several hundred, in fact, which are related to Academy hubs. So first of all, we do have guidance available on the help site, which we can signpost for you in terms of getting your TPAC into your files. If you install your TPAC and then you've got your starting on a new file, then your new mapping numbers will be there automatically. If you want to add those new mapping numbers into an existing file, make sure your TPAC is installed, and then you go to File. We're using the Copy Components function here. Lots of guidance available on the Copy Components function, and again, we can point you in the right direction there. You'd want to copy into this file. I'm going to breeze through this, but we can provide more detail if you need it. You'd make sure you select the correct template. So we want to choose Accounts Advanced, Charity and Academy. And then this will bring you to your components screen. We just want to select the groupings and mappings option. We've already got mapping ticked, so that's handy. We go into the options here. And then what we would usually do when we're updating our files internally is we'd make sure that you select to merge the source files mapping structure. A little prompt there to say new mapping numbers are added in brackets there if you're not 100% sure whether that's the right option. And we want to autofill account property using mapping properties. So you know you've got all of your options set correctly there, and then you just follow through clicking next until you get to finish. That will bring in your new mapping numbers I won't go through that process on this webinar, but again, let us know if you'd like us to provide any more detail on how to do that. Once your new mapping numbers are in, we go to the account option at the top, assign mappings, and then it's on the wrong screen, bring it over. We've got our assign mappings here. And first of all, we'll go to our income section. So under our K codes, we've now got some KU, KV, and KW codes. So this is for teaching school. This is for the hubs, should I say. So KU would be for teaching school hubs. We've got just drill down here, and we can see we have, we can drill down to mapping numbers that are covering grants, other income. We've also got KV, which is for our other hub 1, and we've got KW, which is for our other hub 2. Now, feedback from clients and during the development process, we applied other hub 1 and 2 in addition to the KU teaching school hub, because we think it's unlikely that a single academy will have more than one of those teaching school hubs. But you do have the option to rename these if required. So you can right click on, let's say, for example, we had other hub 1, we could right click and go into the properties and we could update the description there. That would be to update it in your working trial balance and in your mapping. There is another process for making sure that your custom descriptions are pulling through to the face of the accounts, and actually we'll show you that shortly when we jump into case view as opposed to working papers. We do have some example figures mapped. So you can see under our other hub 1, we have a figure mapped here, this 77788. We've also got an example figure under teaching school hub. We've got another one under other hub 2. This is so that I can show you where they pull through to the accounts. We do also have the equivalent expenditure mapping code update. So if we scroll down to the bottom, we can see we have our YU. This is again for teaching school hub, and then you have your expenditure types, and again you can rename those in the mapping here, but we also have renaming options in the wizard, which I'll show you shortly. We also have YV, which is for your other hub 1, and then we have YW for your other hub 2. So that's the mapping side. That's all your mapping numbers there. So you know, if you haven't got your KU, KV, KW and your equivalent YU, YV and YW in there, then that will suggest that you don't have the new TPAC applied to your file. And we've got a handy help site article for bringing in TPACs that we can show you if needed. We're now going to jump into the case view. We're going to jump to the accounts, which I handily already have open. And if we jump to the sofa, we can see here, this is where our figures are pulling through. So on this file at the moment, we've got that detail switched on. So in line with the AAD, we want to be showing that detail on the face of the sofa. So we've got that switched on in the expenditure here. So we can see teaching school hub. We've got our 88,899 pulling through here for our restricted funds, which is where it was mapped. And then our total funds figure is updated. We've also got the equivalent figures that example figures we've mapped there coming through to other hub 1 and other hub 2. You do have the option, as you do with many rows in the accounts, to update your description just simply by clicking on it. And you could go up here and you could update the description. That's fine. Although if you were to, for example, remove and replace the note, remove and replace the statement, then it will revert it to default. So you would then need to rename it again. So we do have another method for updating those descriptions, which will ensure that if you change the statement at all, or if you need to replace it, then those descriptions will still pull through correctly. I'll show you that in a few minutes' time. We can see we've got a tick box in the income section. So for charitable activities, if we tick that, then we can see that will build in the equivalent breakdown for our K codes. And we can see that our figures have come through for our 3 hubs. We're going to jump to the expenditure note. So we'll use our note reference here, number 7, and we can see that these row descriptions and figures are also pulling through to here. So we can see we've got our direct costs for our 3 hubs, figures coming through under restricted funds and under the totals. We can also see that those the relevant figures are coming through for our analysis of expenditure, by activities. That's coming through here as well. So that's your note side of it, as opposed to the statement. Your note to the accounts, it's coming through here. Again, you can rename these rows by just selecting them and updating them at the top, but we've got a better way of doing that, which I'll show you a bit later on. Also worth pointing out that these figures will update in your funds analysis worksheet, so you'll be ready then to apply your normal allocations, which we've already done on this file, but they will pull through and update there correctly as well. What we're going to do now is jump to the wizard, and we're going to go to the general information section. And this is what I was talking about a moment ago in terms of updating your descriptions. So you can see under our charitable activity, this is under the funds tab, by the way, under general information. You can see under the funds section here, we have these 13, 14, and 15 activity numbers, and this is where it's showing our hubs. We've also got the column headers here as well. So in some notes, the descriptions will come through as headers as opposed to rows, or perhaps both, and I'll show you that in a moment just to confirm where they are. But this is where we would recommend updating the descriptions. So let's say, for example, it depends on what the hubs are geared up for in terms of centers of excellence. But let's say, for example, it's quite a crude analogy, but let's just say we've got maths and we've got history and we've got English. That's for your rows, and then we'll do the equivalent breakdowns for the column headers. Of course, you can rename the entire description. You don't need to put your additional text on the end, as I am, but I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. Okay, we'll save the wizard up the top here just to make sure that that's going to retain. And then if we go back to the accounts, oh, bear with me. There we go. Oh, no, it's opened in the wrong place. We're going to jump back to the accounts. There we are. Right. So you can see that's updated straight away. So we've got our row descriptions there we've got our maths, English, and history and English updated here on the rows. And we've got it updated here in the expenditure by activities as well. And as I say, and doing it that way, because it's driven by the wizard, if you were to remove and replace the note, then it's again going to look at the wizard and those descriptions will pull through as you've entered them rather than you needing to enter them again. If we go to our, if we scroll down here to our analysis of direct costs, for example, we can see that updating those column headers in the wizard is updated here as well. So we've got our maths hub, and we can see that our 88899 is pulled through there. And you do have your expenditure type descriptions that you can update through the wizard as well, and also update through the assigned mappings so that you make sure that you have the correct signposting in your working trial balance. That really covers most of the hub, Academy Hub mapping side that I wanted to go through on today's session. But if you do have any questions about the hubs, because of course it's a new addition to the template, please let us know. In fact, James, have we got any questions that have come through so far that we can touch on briefly before we move on?
Yeah, no problem. We do actually have one. So one of our clients asks if the CT/YT mappings are used in the prior year for teaching schools, should they be remapped to the new CU and YU codes this year, or left for comparatives?
So for very, very good question, actually. And we did have a brief conversation with the product manager for accounts production, and there was a solution there for comparatives, although it escapes me at the moment. So what I'll do, if we could just take the details, then we'll get back to you directly after the session. There is an answer. I'm just not sure what it is at this moment in time, but very good question, and we'll get back to you after the session.
No problem. There we go. Got your details there. There aren't actually any further questions either through the chat nor the Q&A chat either.
Problem. So. Well, we'll move on with the remainder of the content. There's not much more to go through actually, and then we'll revisit, see if there's any questions at the end, or even if it's just rather than a question about what we're covering, if it's just asking us to point you in the direction of some guidance, but we are going to have a
No
quick look
problem.
at the help site shortly. Thanks,
Yeah.
James.
Just 2 seconds, sorry, Tom. We just had another one come in. It's just in regards to the same answer. So another client wants the same information. Instead of sending it directly to these clients, should we just do an all-round handout for that if
Let's
everyone
do that.
wants access
Let's
to
put
it?
it in the Q&A document.
No
Yeah,
problem.
definitely.
So when we make the article for this webinar, we'll have a handout for you that you can get the answer from.
Okay.
No problem.
All right, so that's we'll finish up with hubs there, but we'll regroup on the answer to your comparatives question. We're going to go through some sundry changes now, so I'm going to jump around to different places in the accounts, but I'll try and make it as fluid as possible. Something I just want to point out very quickly, we'll go to the accounts preparation table, and this is something that we've had some feedback on, and something that, of course, we have experienced internally, is if you're using a custom trustees report, then historically you would see in your accounts prep table that you'd have your trustees report. We used the C button here to use our custom one, and then it would just have a generic description at the end to indicate that we're using a custom one, although it wasn't giving away which one it was. This has been updated now, so even though our imaginative description for our custom template is trustee report template, that's not a generic description, that's actually what we've called it. So if you were using your own custom trustees report, then it will give you the name as you've given it in the name of the file that you're using, so you know exactly which one you're using there. That's in the release notes. You'll see there's some sundry descriptions in there for the changes that have been included. What we're going to do now is jump to the governance statement, and something that's been added here is we've got another paragraph that's been added in the center here. This is ticked by default in line with the AAD. You can untick it, of course, and that will change it to blue so that it will skip. But of course, we will retick that so that it changes to black, indicating that it will print. And this is a paragraph for you to detail what processes you have in place to deal with conflicts of interest. So this is placeholder text. You wouldn't be leaving the text as it is. You'll delete that out, and you can paste in or type in your own text for your processes to do with conflicts of interest. We're now going to jump down to the statement of funds. So we're going to right down the bottom here, and we can see this is a blink and you'll miss it change, perhaps, but we can see that every column now, including this pound sign, this currency icon, is printing that currency icon, whether there's figures in the column or not. Previously, if there were no figures there, then it wasn't printing, but by default, those are going to print on every column. While we're down the bottom of the accounts here, we'll go to the pension commitment note, if I can say it. We've just had a small update to the wording here for the next valuation. So next valuation result is due to be implemented from the 1st of April 2024. So again, another perhaps blink and you'll miss it difference, but that's been updated there. As we mentioned in the agenda, we've got a new gift aid accounting policy. So if we jump to the accounts prep, we can see under our accounting policies, we've got gift aid here. Currently, this is not built into the accounts. We've got a question mark there, and that is because Caseware needs more information to determine whether it should be turned on. So we now have our disclosure override to say, well, actually, yes, we do want to turn it on. And that's now building that into the accounts. If we double click, we'll see I've got many windows open, so apologies for the speed restrictions here, but we should see that any moment. We've got a new set of text boxes for gift aid. There we go. Right, so we can see these two sets of user text are turned on by default. So I'll just scroll up so you can see here it is, gift aid. Again, you can use these tick boxes to determine which paragraph you want to turn on and off. And of course, you can edit this text with it being highlighted in green. So the last thing really I want to point out in the accounts here is a minor wording change, but a very important one. This is in response to client feedback, which is to do with Academy Trust Handbook. as opposed to Academy's financial handbook. So we can see, if we go down, we'll show you one example of where that appears right down the bottom, related party transactions. We can see here we have Academy Trust Handbook. Previously, this was the Academy's financial handbook. This has now been updated, so any reference in the accounts will now display as Academy Trust Handbook. Again, everything I've gone through on the content today is in the release notes, which I believe James is popping in the chat, but I'm actually just going to show you as well on the help site how to get to them. And I think that's probably a good segue to jump to the help site. So we are going to have a quick look now at where you can find our guidance. Go on, James.
We do also have one other question.
Absolutely.
The question is, can we remove the TS hub header on the 2021 comparative on the expenditure note shown on screen? And then it was at the moment at that point in time. But yeah, but on the expenditure note that you had under the comparative, can you
Let's
remove
have a look.
the TS hub header?
So we were jumping down to here, weren't we? This one.
Yes.
Can we remove it?
Remove it. I do believe you can double click into it and delete all the content out of there.
You can.
If you wanted to retain the other educational options as well. So
yeah, so that's going to give you, it will indicate on the face of the accounts that that's been amended because of the red dot there, although it's not going to print. So yes, those are editable cells.
And it was the comparative as well. Sorry, I believe the comparative is the same as well, just further down there.
This one here.
Yeah, it's also editable. Perfect.
So yes, you can just click in there and you can delete those out. We've got some gobbledygook text while it thinks about it. If you right click the red dot, you can select the overridden, and then it will revert to the original text.
Wonderful. Perfect. Yeah, I think we're all good to go over to.
Yes, I'm actually just going to pause my screen for a sec because I'm logged in to our help site. Of course, one of the big selling points of our help site is that you don't need to log in. So just to avoid any confusion, I'm just going to log out and then we'll start again. Pop that over there. Right. Okay. So new help site. First of all, point out that you don't necessarily need to have a note of the address here for this site, because if you go to kb.caseware.co.uk, the old knowledge base, it will redirect you. And even better, it will redirect you from specific articles. We haven't got every article transferred over yet. This is a work in progress, although we do have, I think, about 500 now on there. But we have some more to transfer over. So if you were to click on a historic link for an old KB article, if it's on the help site, it will direct you to the new equivalent. If it's not, then it will give you a pointer for how to get the information. But help.caseware.co.uk, this is what you'll see. You don't need to log in for guidance. There is a login facility, and that is for super users, and that is to access downloads and that sort of thing. I'll just refresh that, so then we'll get rid of the bits that are behind the login. So this is what you'll see, should I say. So if you want to get to the release notes for this latest EPAC, there's various ways to do it. You can use our search now, which is more powerful than before. So I could say, I'm going to go for epCA4.06.02, and that will actually direct you to the latest EPACs article, which is under release documentation under Accounts Advanced. We've then got the release notes link here, and that's going to give you a link to download what I think are already putting in the chat. If you want to download the release itself, you've got the link here, although it will ask you to log in. And this is all of our downloads now are require a login. So if you're a super user, then you should have a login for this. If you haven't, of course, let us know. Or you can speak to your nearest super user who can download it for you. If you feel that you should have super user access, then you can get in touch with support, and we'll have some signposting for contact details at the end of the webinar, and that's where you'll download it from. But otherwise, we have all of our sort of bread and butter guidance on here. So, for example, if you wanted to know a bit more about, let's say you wanted to know a bit more about taking updates. So I was talking earlier about TPACs. So if we search for TPAC, we get an article here on how to apply a TPAC to template with a handy quick vid there. You can see our content is gradually being updated with new branding. There is some legacy branding, but it will all be the same at some point. But that's where you've got your TPAC guidance there. We also have our getting started guides. So if you wanted the Academy getting started, then that will give you a link to our interactive getting started guide there. So I think I've waffled on enough about the new help site, but it's we think a big improvement over what we had before. Hopefully it will allow you to find what you're looking for more easily. Certainly we welcome your feedback. I think we're going to jump back to the slides now, and I'll hand over to James, and we'll go through the wrap up and also see if we have any more questions.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just going to share my screen here. Perfect. And grab that one there. Wonderful. You should be able to see the screen there. All good, Tom?
Yes, that's fine.
Perfect. Yeah, so just to wrap up, if you've got any other questions, just use the Q&A feature just shown at the bottom of your screens, and on mobile it should be in the same location as well. While we're going through that, we haven't got anything through at the moment, so we'll just start the wrap up process. But yeah, if anything does come in, we'll stop and answer that for you. So yeah, just a quick reminder that the upcoming webinar that we have next is the Company House filing on the 1st of September. It's an intermediate level webinar, but please don't let that discourage you from coming. To register for it, just head to caseware.co.uk/events, and you'll also be able to find the rest of our upcoming events there as well. These don't just include webinars, they also include any of the conferences that we're going to in person as well. So if you're interested in anything like that, just head to the events page and you can find all the information there. Perfect. Just a quick reminder that we have a LinkedIn client services page. It's kind of like a sister page from the main Caseware LinkedIn site, and we'll post mainly about the education and media side of things. So the next upcoming webinars will be flag posted there. So just jump on there and follow to get the latest updates. In addition to this, we also have our Caseware YouTube channel. We post all of our content, so webinars, quick vids, and what's news videos to go on there as well. So if you subscribe there, you'll also have access to all that content as well. Perfect. We still don't have any questions through at the moment. So just to wrap up here, a quick reminder to use the latest version of the KB site. It's now called the help site, so it's help.caseware.co.uk. Although if you do have the wrong URL, it should redirect you in that without any issue there. Perfect. So no more questions there. No. Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us on today's webinar. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.